All right, guys, we have got our in-depth preview here for the Cincinnati Bengals, a very fun football team, and we'll go into a variety of reasons why they were very fun last year. But yeah, just like every other video, we're going to start off with the coaching staff, move into the roster, move into the schedule, some future bets, and some other things. And yeah, we'll see where that goes. But let's start with the coaching staff. Zach Taylor is the coach. Not super in love with Zach Taylor. There are some things he does. I mean, I kind of like the play calling for the most part. It seems a little bit one-sided, like heavy pass, and I don't know. It runs almost like a complete and out and out spread, and I think they can play a little bit tighter, and I think the run game could be a little bit more creative, but it's also behind a bad offensive line, so I'm not going to hold it too much against him. My biggest thing with them is they start really slow, and I know some of that's on Burrow not really being not on Burrow, but Burrow's not really healthy at the beginning of training camp, and it's always kind of like a catch-up mode. But they lose some games early and just start generally slow. Some of those games, some of those losses are like that, like the Patriots lost last year, regardless of if Burrow had any preseason whatsoever, was really bad. But yeah, so a slightly below average coach for me. Okay, not okay. We'll see. He'll call the plays, of course. And then defensive coordinator Al Golden comes in, replaces Lou Anarumo, who was a really interesting character. Like, Lou figured out how to stop Patrick Mahomes, and that seemed to be it. Couldn't stop anyone else or anything else. It was a very, very weird thing. We'll see how that goes over in Indianapolis, but genuinely felt like he had the way to stop Mahomes and nothing else. Last year, they didn't stop much of anybody. And again, the quarterbacks they played last year were not good, and they weren't stopping anybody. It was very, very interesting for the most part, of course, the quarterbacks. So yeah, we'll see if Al Golden can come in and play a better scheme and make this defense jump up a little bit. We're looking at a pretty good football team here. I'm skeptical just in terms of who's on the roster and stuff like that, and it's obviously a jump from Notre Dame into the NFL and stuff like that, but it's should be interesting, and it's probably one of the bigger stories on the team overall going into the season. Next, we can jump right on into the roster. We can start at quarterback, Joe Burrow. Jake Browning's the backup. I think Jake Browning had that really good run when Joe Burrow first got hurt, and since then he's been not so good. And he's a backup quarterback, obviously, but even for kind of backup quarterbacks, he's kind of worrying. I don't particularly love Browning, and he's pretty far down the list in terms of backups for me. But Joe Burrow, a consensus top 4 guy. He's number 4 for me. I really like Joe Burrow, and it may feel like I'm going to nitpick Joe Burrow, but that's just because he's being compared to Lamar and Allen and Mahomes. But if he were being compared to the rest of the NFL, again, very, very comfortably ahead of everyone else behind those big 3. So it may sound harsh, like he's below the Allens, the Lamars, and EPA per play versus the blitz. He's kind of low there. And he doesn't really have the rushing upside some of the other quarterbacks do. And again, we're nitpicking because we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4s here, and it's all very, very tight at the top. But I have him firmly at 4. I don't particularly think he's like in danger of overtaking any of the 3 ahead of him, and I don't think there's specific danger behind him unless like Jaden Daniels has like another really great year, then maybe there's a conversation there. But I think he's personally pretty entrenched at 4, and that's a pretty good spot to be in if you're any franchise, frankly. So again, Joe Burrow, a very, very good quarterback here. Running back, below average for me. Chase Brown was not super great last year, and again, we're playing behind a pretty bad line, and again, I don't love the scheme. We'll see this year. I kind of think he has a better year. He can catch passes, and hopefully the line is a little bit better for him. I'm not super hopeful that he's like putting up huge numbers here or anything like that. That being said, the rest of the room is really not good. P. Ryan older. You got a late round rookie in Taj Brooks. Like, this should be Chase Brown's room, and his counting statistics, yards, touchdowns, that sort of stuff, should have a really good year. Whether he has like a good year running and stuff like that, it's a completely different thing, but he should at least have this room to himself for the most part, and should have, assuming the offensive line is not college level, he should have a pretty decent statistical year there. So again, I don't love the room here. Definitely don't love it after Chase Brown, but I expect Chase Brown to have at least a step forward here. So we'll see how that room goes. Wide receiver, you got the best wide receiver duo in the league for me. Jamar Chase is either 1 or 2 for pretty much everybody. He's number 1 for me, but him and JJ are interchangeable to me, so it doesn't matter that much. T. Higgins is a lower end 1 kind of guy, so you have 2 1s, it feels like, here on this football team, and they're kind of complementary. T. Higgins can definitely go up and grab a ball. Less of a beat you with route running and stuff type of guy, but he can catch a whole variety of things, and there aren't too many corners in the league who are big enough to just cover T. Higgins, so that gives you a nice advantage. Everything after that, not in love with. Yoshivas is the third guy here, but he was not good last year. Charlie Jones, Aziel Williams, Jermaine Burton, I keep waiting for it with him. It just hasn't come. And it's just not happened yet. We'll see. So again, everybody after the top 2, not for me. The top 2, best in the league. So it's an interesting dichotomy here. An injury to one of those 2 could be really detrimental to the team, like as a whole, considering the way it's built. And obviously hoping they stay healthy, but they're pretty thin. They're really thin. So we'll see how that goes. Tight end, it's okay, I suppose. Noah Fant comes in. I'm not a Noah Fant guy, and Noah Fant has the physical tools, it feels like, but nothing great. Gesicki, similar. I thought a lot of Gesicki's stuff was, how do I say it? Not super efficient. Not a super fantastic route runner. He's kind of like the 25th best tight end in the league for me. Again, he had a good year, and like he got a lot of work just in general, because there are out like in the middle, there is 0. There's no slot. There's none of that. So he felt a lot like Njoku does to me, or Hunter Henry does to me, where just volume in a world where like he's on a team with like if you see him in Detroit, he's probably just not getting very much volume, and that's not his fault or anything like that, but in terms of tackle breaking and in terms of route running and all that stuff, not super great here. So again, I think he'll have another good year. I expect him to get volume here, because outside of the 2 wide receivers, there's nothing over the middle, and you need something over the middle. And he's a big dude, but that it's a lower end tight end room for me, despite the names here. Offensive line, probably still pretty bad. They changed their guards out. Lucas Patrick comes in, who's okay. And then you got a 3rd round rookie playing at left guard, which would normally wouldn't be like a hey red flag type of thing. It's kind of a red flag here, because the 2 guys on the edge are surrounding him. Orlando Brown, who was awful last year, and Ted Karras, who is he was a below average center last year. Normally, if you're surrounded by good linemen, like, you can kind of slip in and learn your way through, and it's not noticeable. A 3rd round rookie coming in and slipping his way in between 2 players who were really bad last year could be potentially problematic. So we'll see. And again, Mims was bad last year, but he's a really young player. So, early round pick. You're hoping he takes a step, but last year wasn't very good. So we'll see. And there's no real depth here. Last year, 32nd in pass block win rate, 30th in run block win rate out of 32 teams. So the floor is pretty low. Whether Patrick if the two guards come in and they play pretty well and that props up the center a little bit, then you're looking at an offensive line that can do a little bit, particularly in the run game, I guess, up the middle. But yeah, there's not a lot of hope here, and that's what holds the offense back a bit, despite the offense being really great all the time, it feels like. So we'll see here. But yeah, not in love with the offensive line either. There's a lot of really on this football team, just in general, there's a lot of really good. Chase, Higgins, Joe Burrow, and then there's just a lot of bad. The offensive line. Some of the stuff we'll talk about on the defense. So it's a very unbalanced group. But yeah, that's just it. Very unbalanced. So why don't we jump into the defense? Again, this will be the big conflection point, really. Will Al Golden come in and be better than Lou Anarumo? Is it a personnel thing? I think it's more toward personnel, though I wasn't particularly enamored with Lou Anarumo altogether. And it's a big jump. And if you can get a scheme that kind of just hides some of the problems on this defense, you're looking at a pretty significant jump, because this is definitely one of the worst defenses in the league last year. And again, if you can get it to jump from like 28 to like 20, that takes a ton of pressure off the offense, who's good enough to score like every other drive, or maybe every drive, it feels like. Pretty big job on his hands, and a pretty important one, and a potentially really rewarding one, because just an 8-spot jump on defense probably puts this team, like, if they have an average defense, they're winning 11, 12, 13 games, it feels like, right? So we'll see here. As for the personnel, defensive line, we'll see. Probably getting better, maybe. You bring in Shamar Stewart, the rookie early round draft pick. Again, I thought he was really raw coming out of A&M, and I wasn't hopeful that he would hit the ground running. I thought this would be like, when he finally gets going, it takes anywhere between 8 and 16 games type stuff. If he does hit the ground running, it's a really huge addition. I can't take too much out of the camp. He looks pretty good in camp from the reports I've read, but also it's the Bengals offensive line, and this is probably the worst offensive line he's going to play all season. So it's tough to kind of get a real look at it. But again, good prospect long term. I think Trey Hendrickson, obviously having the contract dispute, though Stewart had one too, but still ongoing with Hendrickson. And he was really great last year. My only real worry about Hendrickson is that the age curve is kind of here for him. So I'm not saying he's going to dip, but if he did dip a little bit, I wouldn't be super surprised. We're kind of on the lookout for it. There's nothing in his numbers that says here comes the dip again, other than the age curve is kind of here. So again, something to maybe look out for, but not something I'm looking at and thinking it's a real genuine problem going forward. Depth is okay, maybe. Size, not so great. Murphy, so I don't want to see those guys getting a ton of snaps. We don't want to see Hendrickson. We don't get hurt, and if Hendrickson gets hurt, everything falls apart here. So we'll see. At the edge department, interior, BJ Hill continues to be good, solid, above average kind of D tackle, and then everything else is not so good here. Jenkins, Jackson, we'll see. Slayton is the 2, maybe. Not in love with the interior outside of BJ Hill. Again, it's very thin. It's not very good as an overall unit, but it's also one injury away from being an actively horrific unit. So Need the guys to stay healthy. Hendrickson, Stewart, hopefully one of the edge rushers gets going, like Asai, BJ Hill. Maybe you get one of these guys to be decent next to BJ Hill there, but again, not planning on it and need these guys to stay healthy. Linebacker is okay. Logan Wilson's solid. Last year, his run defending stuff was really, really great, like top 5 or 6 in the league, like in terms of being a run defender, was really, really great. They lose Pratt, which is a positive that he left. Like, he was genuinely really bad, and him just not playing snaps here possibly upgrades the unit. Demetrius Knight comes in, the draftee. Really great in coverage his last couple of years in college. So you're hoping that he can take that into the NFL. And then pretty solid backup. Burks, Carter, solid. So it's a pretty solid room. Like, if Demetrius Knight hits the floor running, hits the ground running, you're looking at a pretty good linebacker unit, really. And then the secondary, not so great. It was a bad unit last year. It's pretty much the same unit this year. The same guys are pretty much going to be starting for the most part. Safety room is bad. Stove, Battle, not good. They were very, very bad last year. Corner, there's some solid pieces here. Taylor Britt's okay. I'd like Dax Hill. We'll see where that goes. DJ Turner was okay and young, and hopefully he takes a step as well. Learn he's a quick kind of corner, but again, like slightly undersized, and you're looking at just adjustment period there for someone like that is pretty long, and he's had a year here, so you're maybe expecting another jump. Depth behind that's really not very good. Not worth mentioning either. So again, the corner room's not horrific. Don't love the safety room. I don't like the safety room at all. And yeah, so there's a few positives on the defense, and you kind of look at it and see a couple pieces again. Again, it's 1 or 2 injuries away from being the worst defense in the NFL, probably. One of the big guys, Hendrickson, Stewart, maybe, BJ Hill, any of the linebackers, really, any of the corners. It's a potentially really, really bad room if one of those guys gets hurt. So I'm in this realm where I'm expecting maybe some slight progression here from the defense. Slight. I have to see it, and I have to see what Al Golden really schemes up. Offensively, I think it'll be very, very similar to what it was last year, and maybe you get a little bit better offensive line play, and if you do, you're looking at a slightly better offense. But the floor for the offense is so good because Joe Burrow and the receivers are so good, and it's almost impossible to deal with. I don't know how you cover those 3 guys, even if like they're so good at the line of scrimmage as well in terms of just reading plays. Joe Burrow is so good at that. They get the ball out really quick, and they play within the realm of this bad offensive line. They get the ball out quick. They're really good audibly at the line of scrimmage. They're really good drawing that stuff up. So again, the floor is so high for the offense, genuinely. And the defense, the floor is very low, but there's a world where we're looking at the 20th, somewhere between 20 and 16. Can you get there? And that would be absolutely massive. So we'll see. As for the schedule, an interesting one. Again, last year, like, this defense faced a lot of backup quarterbacks. I'm not so sure you're going to get that this year. You're going to get a lot more starters, genuine quarterbacks on it. But I feel like there are more winnable games, and just overall, the first 2 are winnable at Cleveland and then Jacksonville, and then it's a bit of a step here, and then you go at Minnesota, at Denver, home to Detroit, at Green Bay. It's a nasty 4-game stretch, 3 games on the road, and again, like if J.J. McCarthy's solid and you're looking at 3 good offenses, 2 really good offenses, most likely in Green Bay and Detroit, and a great defense in Denver, who If you're going up against a team that has a really good defense, you're kind of in trouble because of the way your defense is set up. That being said, they scored some points last year, so we'll see. Pitt, Jets, Chicago, all in a row before the bye. Those are all winnable. Those are all ones you look at and you need to win, probably. If you're looking at the schedule, you got to win these 3 before the bye. At Pitt, New England, after the bye, and then probably the nastiest 3-game stretch anybody in the league has. Go at Baltimore, at Buffalo, and then Baltimore at home, which is horrible. And if you lost all 3, not too many people can blame you going into that. And then you have to travel down to Miami, and then you have Arizona, Cleveland to end the season at home. So there's some stretches here that are really nice. Again, that 3-game stretch there. Jets, Chicago, Pitt, and then the stretch at the end there at Miami, Arizona, Cleveland at home. Like, those are good stretches, and you're hopeful you can win all 6 of those. And if you do win all 6 of those, you're probably a playoff team considering the way the rest of the stuff is going. But again, with the defense, I'm having trouble marking down wins. The offense is going to get there. Is the defense going to get there? Need to see it. So yeah, an interesting schedule. And we do have a couple bets here, and we're going to have a little bit of a go at their offensive ceiling here with a couple of bets. Jamar Chase, Offensive Player of the Year at plus 1188, a $1.75 bet. I really like this. Really like this one. If numbers are similar to last year, barring a running back having an absolutely absurd year or another receiver going ballistic, and Jamar Chase with similar things to last year should win this award in that realm. And again, I think there are more winnable games on the schedule here. So if this team has got 10 wins and it's a playoff team, they're going to get a lot of consideration. Last year they didn't make the playoffs, and you kind of get dinged points for that just a bit. And again, Saquon had an absolutely absurd year, and I have doubts that he can repeat that exact feat. But I don't particularly have doubts that Jamar Chase can repeat what he did last year, and I expect him to continue to throw the football this year. So we like that one. And then we have one more here. Bengals to score a touchdown in every game at minus 130, a $3.50 bet. I don't love playing these when there's a schedule of difficult stuff. Like, you go to Denver, you play Baltimore twice, you go to Buffalo, you play Detroit though at home. There are some good defenses on here, but my thing is, one, as long as the big 3 are healthy on offense, I would be pretty surprised to see them not score a touchdown. Last year, again, they scored a bunch on Baltimore. Everyone in every important game, it feels like, has had Sean McDermott's number offensively. And Denver was the best defense here. Defenses kind of are tough to keep in that top 5 realm all the time. Number 1 and number 2, Bengals scored points on them last time. So I like this, and I think the defense is bad enough where I have a hard time seeing them not playing the last couple of games. That's a lot of my worry sometimes when you do these things. Is hey, you want to do Buffalo to score a TD every game, and it's minus 250, but also the schedule is so easy that they're probably resting dudes in the last 2 weeks, and I don't think you're going to get any of that here with the Bengals because the defense is bad and the schedule's so it's got good teams on it. So there we are. Those are our bets, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals.